talk about this because this has a lot of people going wild. The UFO tracker recorded thousands of USOs, or unidentified submerged objects. So not in the sky.
I don't like it.
But underwater. This was all over the U.S. coast. For this conversation, we want to bring in Ron James, the Mutual UFO Network's Media Relations Director, and also the filmmaker behind the UFO documentary Accidental Truth. We've had you on the show before. You're a friend of the show. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. We don't hear you. You may be muted.
You
may want to double check and make sure you're not muted. It happens on live TV. Good morning to you.
There we go, Ron. Okay, I'm kind of terrified by this news because I've never heard of this before. So what do you mean? What is a USO for people at home who are freaked out as I am?
Well, USO is a phrase that stands for Unidentified Submersible Object, and basically what it is covering is objects that are under the water. Now, MUFON has not noticed a significant uptick in USO sightings, but what we can talk about is that there's been a serious uptick in USO awareness. The Richard Dolan, famous author in the field, just released a book about the whole history of the underwater objects. And then we also have Admiral Gallaudet from the Navy, who is going on doing the talk show circuits talking about how the Navy's encountered these underwater craft. And so it's certainly a thing, but I think one of the reasons that it's getting more mainstream focus is because a lot of people are talking about it, not necessarily an uptick in sightings. And then, of course, we've got Enigma Labs, who is putting out some of this information, and we really don't know much about them. MUFON has people that have boots on the ground investigators all over the world. We're the oldest organization doing this stuff. And what we found is there's a lot of groups popping up that are actually creating for-profit companies to do basically what MUFON does, but they're still not stepping up to being as effective as we are. So the information is diluted and not really correct from what we've been able to ascertain.
Diluted, but no pun intended there. When it comes to USOs, is this a situation where there's actual proof, or do you think that that means that there's alien life in the water, or is this simply like, you know, when people fly drones over a body of water and the drone goes down? Is it that simple, or does it mean that there's potentially alien life underwater somewhere?
Well, you know, the more logical explanation, and something that's gaining more and more traction, is that there could be an entire advanced civilization coexisting with us here on planet Earth. They could be inside the Earth, they could be under the water in bases, and some of these stories that we're getting about encountering these craft, which has apparently been going on for a long time with the U.S. Navy, are starting to make sense. So it could be a combination of extraterrestrials that have bases here that are concealed, or there's the very real possibility that we're dealing with an actual additional sentient race here on planet Earth.
Can you talk about some of the stories? You mentioned that you're hearing more stories out there of these USOs. What kind of stories are you hearing?
Well, you know, the people are coming forth from the Navy, and they're talking about things where submarines have encountered craft the size of football fields that are moving at impossible speeds underwater. There's videos that exist of these things going from space to air to in the water without really seeming to change based on what's around them. So in other words, they're able to traverse without the restrictions that you would expect to find when you're going through water.
Wow.
What are we looking at right now with this video?
There's a lot of these stories coming up, and some of them are coming from you know, reliable people. And you guys are looking at this video. This is a MUFON case that was sent to us, and that's undetermined. You know, that could be anything. It could be some scuba divers. We can't figure out what it is, but we're not sure if it's, you know, some kind of alien craft under the water. MUFON likes to be logical and make sure that the conclusions we come to make sense.
Well, it must be kind of hard, honestly, Ron, because we're in the world of AI right now, and we can see videos manipulated so much. How do you guys, you know, navigate that, and knowing that, you know, some of the things you might be getting in might be fake? Well,
MUFON has the best photo analysis team in the world when on the subject of UAP. We've got guys like Mark D'Antonio and Seth Feinstein, and a bunch of people that are able to go into these videos and find all the metadata and all of the actual relevant material. So an AI video is very unlikely to get past us.
Well, Ron, we do want you to stay with us. We have to take a quick break, but we're going to keep talking about this phenomenon when we come right back. Stay with us. We have much more of Chicago Now right after this short break. Welcome back to Chicago Now. We're going to continue talking about USOs. That's when it goes from the air. We're talking about going underwater. And there's actually an app out there that has logged thousands of sightings of this. It's called Enigma, and it boasts that they are the largest standardized repository of anomalous sightings, and they have received reports of over 30,000 unidentified objects since its launch in just the year 2022. What do you make of this app, Ron? Is that number shocking to you, and could there be even more sightings than what's on this paper?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting app. It's very cool. People can interact with it. MUFON has a similar app as well. One of the things that we've discovered about Enigma is that their database of all of this stuff, and significant amount of it has been scraped from somehow getting into our database and just publishing it. So again, I don't know what these guys are doing as far as how they're gathering information and what they're doing with it. We have a very standardized UFO reporting process, and we've documented over almost 200,000 cases over the years. And when we have these other organizations that are popping up that are actually trying to get UFO reports and gather them for themselves for their app or whatever reason, they're actually creating a dilution of the worldwide database. And so, yeah, the app is very cool. We have a similar one. And I look forward to working with anybody that we can over time to make sure that we're collaborating with data.
Ron, honestly, I've said it before, you know, I'm not that well versed in this world, but I haven't really heard of USOs before. Is it now we're talking about it because it's trending? Is it because we have more advanced technology that's bringing the Navy, these different organizations under the water where we can see some of this?
Yeah, it's definitely trending, and the more information that gets released through the political process, it's becoming more and more apparent that you know, encounters with the Navy, encounters with submerged craft, the stories are coming from the sailors, and the official acknowledgments are coming from the higher ups that there's something going on under the oceans that is beyond what we know about today. It's going to unfold over time, and we're going to be learning more.
Ron, I have to ask you this because there are a lot of people out there that will ask the same questions. If there is life elsewhere, right? Where are they? Where are they doing all of this? Where are they building all this technology? Where are they learning all of this stuff that obviously you have to have a home somewhere to be able to do it? If we're just talking like in your world, you know, the conversations that you guys have together, because this isn't something we talk about every day, but maybe you can give us some insight on where this all would be where it would be happening? Where is it happening and taking place?
Well, you know, my new film, Accidental Truth Next, addresses this. We're living in a reality that we barely understand. We're living in a universe that's billions and billions of years old. So even within physical reality, the likelihood of species that are so advanced that we wouldn't even recognize their technology is more likely than not. And, you know, the ability to traverse vast distances through wormholes and other types of things, that technology does exist somewhere. It's certainly theoretically possible, so it stands to reason that it's happening. And so what we're encountering here, in my personal opinion, I can't say this on behalf of MUFON, but I think that we're kind of being guided into a future of some sort of galactic citizenship, and that it's up to us to prove ourselves worthy of that. And humanity right now is kind of teetering on the brink of not being able to pull that off. So I think that the lessons that we have been taught from the very beginning to the lessons that we need to learn now, it's all the same. We have to do a better job with each other and our planet, and that is going to help us to evolve. And there are highly advanced species coming from any number of sources. They could be interdimensional, they could be time travelers, they could be coming from alternate realities, they could be coming from other planets, they could have been here all along. I think as time rolls out, we're going to find out that the answer to that is all of the above.
Should we be worried? I mean, I'm thinking Star Wars when I think of that, and things didn't go very smoothly in those movies.
Well, you know, there's no evidence that there is a widely dangerous alien agenda. there's certainly an amount of evidence that tells us that we do need to be a little bit concerned. But I don't think we're going to have flying saucers invading and blowing up our cities.
They're probably more worried about us than we need
They're
to
more
be
worried
worried
about us.
about.
They're worried about our
them.
nukes.
They're curious.
There's problems with nuclear weapons that is not something that other planets and species want to endure.
Is this a situation, Ron, where you mentioned like time travelers and all of this? Is this a situation where like you could be on the bus and you literally could be sitting next to someone who, for all intents and purposes, looks normal, looks like a human to you, but could actually be of another life, another planet, somewhere else, but has assimilated to look human just like us? Is that kind of what you're thinking here?
Well, there's a lot of reports about extraterrestrial species that are humanoid. There's in some of the fringes of the field, there's identified several races that are supposedly humanoid and actually do walk among us. And then there's stories about like hybridization programs where the human genome has actually been manipulated from the beginning and is still being manipulated. So we don't know if that stuff's absolutely true. There's no way to prove it, not right now. But we have to keep an open mind.
Well, sometimes I feel like I'm an alien on this earth, so I guess
that goes
honestly,
for most of us, especially with the way things are going right now.
I'm just being honest.
Just a quick question for you, because we're running out of time, but this is such an interesting conversation. What needs to happen? Is it like a certain amount of technology that needs to come into place for us to have more information that this could turn into a galactic civilization, whatever you had said? Like, how long will it take for us to know more answers?
Well, the government is dragging its feet. These guys do not want to reveal what they know. So inside Washington, D.C. is an ongoing battle between the people that have been managing this information for almost 100 years and the people that think that we as humanity has a right to know what's going on. So inside the body politic, it's a big issue. We're getting disclosure in slow drips, very ineffective. And then the rest of it is up to individuals and the experiences that they're having, and getting those experiences more and more accepted into the mainstream to formulate better explanations. And as far as how long it's going to take, I think we're running out of time. We're either going to avert self-destruction or we are going to survive. If we survive, we have a fantastic future, probably as galactic citizens and more. And if we don't, then nobody's going to matter anyway because we're going to be gone.
When we say galactic citizen, Ron, can you break that down for people that may not understand? Because honestly, I really don't. So I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're putting down.
Okay, sure. So just as a thought experiment, if there are advanced species out there, and it's a pretty reasonable conclusion that even if they're not visiting Earth, and that's up for debate, the idea that there's life in the universe is hardly disputed by any scientist at this point. And the idea that over billions and billions of years, we would have advanced spacefaring races pretty much all over the place. If those advanced spacefaring races are going to coexist, then they have to overcome their warlike tendencies, and they have to find a way to get along, and that would cause the creation of something like a galactic federation. And so it's not a stretch to imagine that something like that exists, and it's not a stretch, if we're being visited, to imagine that perhaps we're being evaluated to see whether or not we're going to be qualified to enter that. So, I know it's going off a little bit sci-fi, but the truth is there's a lot of logic behind it. And the people that really study this topic favor the idea that there's some kind of galactic, literally federation that is running the show in outer space.
I have one last question for you, Ron, before we let you go. Has there been anything in mainstream that's happened lately that could be potentially linked? Maybe the folks there at MUFON, maybe you personally think it's almost like a sign, or that it's on a greater scale, that maybe more people, because oftentimes with these sightings, it may be one or two people, or maybe a small community somewhere out in nowhere saw this. Has there been a major sign where maybe we've all seen it and not really recognized what we're looking at?
Well, we have what's happening right now in D.C. is a controlled disclosure. Information is being created and distributed to us through all manner of different mediums. We've got Steven Spielberg, who is about to release his film Disclosure, which is about UFO disclosure. We have the Age of Disclosure movie where all kinds of government insiders are coming forward to talk about what they know. It's going to be absolutely earth-shattering. And so the combination of the magnification in the media and the new sources of information that are coming out in the media is part of this controlled release of information.
Perfect.
Quick question for you, Ron. If people want some more information, can they follow you anywhere?
Yeah, you can follow me on MUFON's Facebook page. You can check out my movie at accidentaltruths.com, or you can watch it for free on YouTube. And my new one, Accidental Truth Next, narrated by Matthew Modine, is coming out right after the first of the year. And it's going to explain a whole lot of this stuff and how it fits into our consciousness, the nature of reality, and who we are. It's not about flying saucers anymore. It's about what's next.
All right, I got to make sure to watch that one.
Yeah.
All right, Ron James, we need to sit down for a couple hours and have coffee one of these days.
I don't know.
I think I could be
much more well prepared than I am right now.
Happy to come to Chicago and shoot a long interview.
All right, we look forward to seeing you, Ron. It's always a pleasure.